Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Aikau-Osurman, and for today, for my project, I'll be explaining chapter 18, which is process costing, and just a little short review. It's similar to chapter 17 when it shows the job ordering costing system, but for chapter 18 we'll be dealing with the process costing system, and which accumulates cost by process, which obviously says it in its names, and it's used by companies that manufacture identical units through uniform product steps, which are basically huge productions. And so for today, I'll be explaining the flow of cost through a process costing system, and I'll be explaining on how to do it with one of our homework assignments, which will be the first question dealing with chapter 18. So let's go ahead and start with this assignment. So it says complete the missing amounts in the T accounts, and then it says begin with the work in process cutting T account, then complete each of the remaining T accounts. And to know about what is coming next for making these products is that for each step of making the product is going to be in separate departments, and each department has its own work in process inventory account. So for here, we're going to have the cutting, the finishing, the packaging, and when it's all finished, it's going to go into finished goods inventory, and when the products are sold, then the system transfers to the product cost, the cost of goods sold, which it says right here. And so just letting you know that each work in process inventory will all have direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. So first I just fill out the first missing amounts in here. So all we have to do is add in the direct materials, direct labor, and the manufacturing overhead, since the balance for May 1st is 0. And then we're going to have to subtract all of that from the balance, since it's balance, for 11,000, and then that's how we'll get our answer. And then it transfers out to the next step. So let's go ahead and do that. Sorry, my voice. So 50,000 from direct materials, direct labor, which is 9,000, and then manufacturing overhead, which is 36,000. And then we're going to subtract all of that by 11,000. And our answer is going to be 84,000. So let's go ahead and input that. And since this process is finished, it's going to have to go transfer out into work in process inventory for finishing. And let's go ahead and check our answer. And we're correct. Alright, so for the next step is pretty similar to it, but just a couple more steps in it. So it says these first blanks is transfer in from, and so it's just going to be the same exact numbers that we got from here, since that's exactly what we just did. So we put it down for work in process inventory for cutting, and it's 84,000. And in order for us to figure out this direct labor number, we're going to have to add all of these, subtract by 80,000, and then by 63,000 to figure out that direct labor amount. So let's add it all together again. So 13,000, 84,000, 23,000, 17,000. Subtract that by 80,000, and once more with 63,000. Should be a negative number, but it's fine. Which is going to be 6,000, and then make positive, which is going to be the amount for the direct labor, which is 6,000. We have that number. We add and subtract things just to figure out how we all learned in middle school, elementary, and how to subtract and find the missings. Since this process is finished, so we're going to go into the next step of making this good, which is the last one, which is the work in process inventory of packaging. Let's check our answer again. And nice work. Sweet. So for the next step, so again, just like the step before, we have to figure out what we transferred in from. So that was finishing, which was 80,000 from this number here, since it was transferred out, and the number that was transferred in. And then to figure out what this is, so we're going to have to add all of these up, subtracted by 7,000 since it was the balance, and that should give us our answer of what we have to transfer out. Let's go ahead and add them all again. So 10,000, 80,000, 5,000, 4,000, 8,000, and then subtract that by 7,000, which would give us 100,000. So let's input that in our answer here. And since this is the last step of making the process, of making the product, so like how I said before, so it's going to be transferred out into our finished goods inventory now, since it's the last step, and that's the part that gets transferred. Nice work. Okay, so now we're moving on to the finished goods inventory. And so just like how we did before, so what you transferred out, you have to input what you transferred in from. So from the packaging, working process inventory packaging, which is 100,000. And now we're going to have to subtract 100,000 with 6,000, like how we did simple from the other steps, which is 94,000. So let's put that in. And so it's going to be transferred out into, since we're done and the product is finished and we're ready to sell it. So when we sell it, so the system transfers the products into the cost of goods sold. So that's why our answer would be cost of goods sold right here. Let's check it. Fantastic. And now for our last step for the cost of goods sold. So like how we did all the other steps, so what we transferred out, we have to put it down for what we transferred in, which would be the finished goods inventory of 94,000. And then since we're not adding it or subtracting it for another number, since the balance remains first is 0, so we're just do that simple math. 94,000, check our answer. And sorry. And nice work. So that's how we figure out the flow of cost through a process costing system. I thought it was pretty simple, pretty easy, since it's basically the same process, just different numbers, adding it, the transfer in, the numbers that you transfer out and transfer in will probably be the most important to know. And then also when the whole process is finished, then it turns to finished goods inventory, and when it's ready to be sold, then it turns into the cost of goods sold. So that's basically it for chapter 18, which is the process costing system. And I hope this really helped.